How's it going, everyone? This is your Astrology Horoscope for the weekend of August 10th and 11th, 2024. I'm astrologer Alex Skyles, and welcome to the Moonbase. Hope you guys had a great week. Happy weekend. This moon passing through Libra, coming into Saturday, I think is highlighting relationship themes that have been playing out over the past few days. And, of course, with this moon in Libra, is going to kick off the weekend, making a very interesting and abnormal angle to Uranus. So I think this weekend, when it comes to relationships and people that we're close to, and definitely a lot of how relationships have transformed and the triggers that have transformed these relationships. So, and I think, too, this is a great weekend to move through blocks in relationships and really have diplomatic discussions and really try to balance things out. But I really think with this in conjunct from the moon to Uranus, it's like you really have to think outside the box when relationships get stuck or they get stale or the monotony, you know. It's like Uranus, Taurus, it gets very comfortable, right? And it's the monotony and the routine, which is great. But with Uranus and Aquarian energy, it's not necessarily the vibe. So with this moon making this odd angle to Uranus, it's like this weekend, it's like we really want to find different ways to shake things up in relationships and, try different things, experiment, don't follow the same routine this weekend. Like if it's like, hey, let's go out and be social. Oh, the moon's in Libra. Like, let's go out and do something fun and interesting. It's like, doing different things and not just the same old pattern, I think can be really enlightening and be very expansive and exciting for relationships. And of course, with Mars and Jupiter getting closer here, it's like, as we come into Monday and Tuesday, it's like Mars and Jupiter are going to be on top of each other here next week. So, it's like we really want to move. I think if we really want to expand our environment and expand our reality, we really got to start moving, moving our body. And the more we can move that physical driving force and push forward, I think that can really activate the mind and open up new doors to allow new information and new knowledge to come through. And that's what this Mars and Jupiter really wants to open up. Mars wants to kind of slit a hole in our consciousness and, allow new things to come in that can really help us look at our personal and environmental situations. And of course, too, it's like, what kind of positive opportunities are going to allow us to keep pushing forward on this journey? So it is being able to look at the facts and look at the information that's going to help us move forward, but also like on a physical level, being able to communicate in a powerful way and really get your message across. It's like if you really feel like you have something to say, it's like this is a great time to exert it and share that with people. It can be very expansive for others. It can be very expansive for yourself. And there's a lot of potential growth and learning and expansion here with consciousness with this Mars-Jupiter, as long as you're willing to move. And of course, this moon in Libra is definitely helping shake things up with this angle to Uranus this weekend, which can be a little uncomfortable, but it's like, we really are being called to kind of break out of that routine. And of course, too, right after that, in conjunct to Uranus, the moon will in conjunct over to Neptune. So, there can be a little confusion in relationships as well. Sorry. There could be a little bit of confusion. And I think that can be triggered by because the moon's going to come in contact with Uranus before Neptune. So it's like the initial triggers before the confusion kind of sets in. So it's like, when there's a trigger, it can lead to a confusing space. And of course, when the moon comes into Scorpio in the afternoon on Saturday, it's going to square over to Pluto at 0 degrees. So this is where we start to dig deep, because there's been a trigger and there's some confusion, and now it's like we have to go underneath the surface, go underneath the hood, And it's like there's some connections that are just not, repairable or making a connection at this moment. So it's like you got to dig deep and uncover that information. Of course, with Mars and Jupiter and Gemini helping us move forward towards expanding through new information and new knowledge, and this moon in Scorpio square Pluto helping us really dig deep underneath the surface. It's like I get this image of that old Dig Dug video game. Just like, there's all kinds of different, positives and negatives that, you can really discover if you're willing to get dirty, and I think of course with this Venus in Virgo and Mercury at 2 degrees retrograding in Virgo, sometimes you do got to get your hands dirty, and it's, it's not all about just being pretty. It's like sometimes you just got to do the basic work. Sometimes you just got to scrub the toilet, or fucking get the broom, sweep up the dust. So being able to focus on basic things can help us work through some of this tension, and when this moon comes off of its square to Pluto, it's not really going to be it will sextile over to Mercury. So there definitely is, a very good opportunity to really dig deep and find some hidden information and hidden things that can really help us piece things together in a very interesting way with this Mercury retrograde, because I think maybe some things from the past can come up that were unclear or misunderstood, that it's like, oh shit, there's a very psychic energy this weekend with this moon coming into Scorpio, with this moon in Leo. So it's like with the sun in Leo. So there is this very intense intuitive energy. Of course, the sun being in a fire sign and the moon being in a water sign, it's like the intuition and the intensity is very heightened. So we got with the moon in Scorpio too. It's like we got to look at Mars. So when it comes to information, when it comes to facts, when it comes to details, when it comes to Mercury and this Mercury retrograde, so there could be things coming out of the woodwork, or people from the past showing up, or relationships or connections showing up from the past, and in a supportive way with this sextile to Venus and the moon. And right after that as well, it's like the moon will make a nice sextile with Venus after it sextiles Mercury. So it is too, this Mercury retrograde with this moon in Scorpio, it's like relationships are involved here as well. So there can be a lot of support this weekend in relationships, and definitely in these more intense spaces, and getting things organized and putting things in order. I think, of course, with Venus about to oppose Saturn, there is going to be this perspective shift, this possible paradigm shift in relationships, and boundaries that are, going to be, that are needing to be set, so within our relationship. So when it comes to boundaries and Saturn, it's Scorpio too. Scorpio knows how to set their boundaries, with just their psychic projection, right? So when it comes to the more practical side of relationships, we really want to also not be afraid to express the more intense emotions. And I think that's where Virgo and Scorpio really kind of help each other. It's like Virgo isn't the most intense, or projects the most aggression or intensity, or not the most animated, but of course it's like when Virgo and Scorpio really support each other like this, it's like it can ground that intensity and allow that Mars intensity to move into a very positive, focused, very focused Virgo direction. So, really focusing that Scorpio energy in our relationships and in our creative projects. This can be a very creative weekend too. It's solving problems in creative projects and finding creative solutions, and definitely working with other people this weekend. We can find very nice, exciting, creative solutions as well, in a much more intense way. Like this reminds me of like Roger Waters from Pink Floyd, and he's Scorpio Virgo energy in his chart. So he's very detailed in how he writes, but he's also not afraid to project that deep intensity, and the point gets across in a very detailed, practical way where, it's like you can understand the emotion through the language. So there is that kind of vibe coming through. And, with Virgo energy and Scorpio energy, it's like we're really starting to feel fall come on here. And, the sun's only going to be in Leo for 10 more days here after this weekend. So we're counting down the days to Virgo season. And I'm looking forward to fall. I'm looking forward to the vibe. I'm looking forward to October and November and the exciting extreme changes that are coming in. Pluto's going to be back in Capricorn before we know it here. So, this moon is not doing much. It will make an odd angle to Jupiter and Mars and Jupiter are getting closer together as we move through Sunday night. It's not a lot happening. There will be an conjunct from the moon to Mars. So if you got to be patient, when things are uncomfortable or awkward or, it's like you don't just want to burst out with emotions. It's like, you want to focus that direct energy in a much more mental way and more detached way. This moon in Scorpio, when it touches Mars like this with Jupiter, it's like emotions can kind of boil over and, So being detached and not getting too caught up in the emotion can help us really move through, but at the same time, it's like this moon is building towards a square to the sun, which we'll feel as we go into Monday. So, yeah, this is a pretty light weekend. I think it's a pretty good weekend. This is a different weekend than we've had in a while. We haven't had a weekend, so I'm not going to say mild by any means, because nothing's mild about any of this energy that we're going through, but it's definitely with this moon in Libra, it's been a little bit of a break, which has been good. And a clearing, too, when it crossed the South Node. And just accepting the way things are in relationships, and not trying to control the situation, and with this Saturn retrograde, which will move to 17 degrees of Pisces here as we come into next week. This is Saturn teaching us about the art of surrender and letting go and trusting the divine and allowing that divine current to flow through us. So, and sacrifice as well. Right now, I think a lot of us, with what our projection towards what we want our lives to look like, it's like there's a lot of sacrifice that has to be made at this moment to really create that future. There is a sacrifice with the Saturn retrograde. There's a sacrifice that needs to be made. And of course, with this Venus that will oppose Saturn, there's something in our relationships and, the people that we're close to that are, creative projects or financial situations. There is a sacrifice that this Venus opposition to Saturn will be testing us with. And then Mercury, when it comes direct, will oppose Saturn, and it'll start to make sense. It may not fully make sense yet. So I got the Devil card reversed. So there's a sacrifice. There's something to let go. There are chains that need to be cut, and this is the Saturn's card. It's like the boundaries and the restrictions and the chains and the shackles that bind us you know, it's like, it's moments like these, especially with this moon in Scorpio this weekend. It's like we have to really decide. It's like, we're going to let this dictate our reality. It's like when Pluto comes back into Capricorn, this is it. This is going to draw the line. Like this split in our consciousness, this split in the collective that we've experienced since Pluto's been in the later degrees of Capricorn. It's like, you know, we got to be prepared for this final showdown here. And there's a lot to let go of. There's a lot to sacrifice and a lot of weight to relieve ourselves of, and a lot of chains and a lot of shackles that we have to make the decision to actually remove. And, you know, sometimes that requires a very intense battle, whether it's with yourself. Of course, Chiron and Aries, it's like battling yourself and battling your own ego and battling the wounds within you. And, you know, so in order to really work with this Saturn retrograde, because the devil card reverse really brings that up for me. It's like, you know, there's a lot of subconscious restriction. Of course, with Saturn and Pisces being the subconscious, it's like, I think more of the restriction and how we're restricting ourselves or harming ourselves. Of course, with Pisces, it's like, with the 12th house or Neptune, if you have strong placements there, it's like you got to, you know, do your best to see the ways where you harm yourself and the ways you don't really realize. And I think Saturn retrograding in Pisces is teaching us that. So anyway, I hope that helped, and I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you all on Monday. Peace out.